Now, we all know the BMW M2 is a fantastic car and undoubtedly a future classic. But which one do you pick? Do you go for the early original, the competition, or sell your house and go for the BMW M2 CS? Well, I think I've actually got the answer right in front of me. Let me show you around the BMW M2 competition. My name's Tom, and you're watching Paragon Cars. Let's go. We're on TikTok, so if you want to see weekly updates, behind the scenes footage, and some funny stuff, click the link in the description below to follow us now. Okay, the first reason you should pick the M2 competition over its older sibling is the engine. Gone is the N55 and in is the technically a proper M engine S55 out of the M3. Of course, they couldn't give it as much power as an M3, so they detuned it to 410 horsepower. It still gets that luscious 550 newton meters of torque though. It also gets a very pretty carbon fibre strut brace, which apparently genuinely affects steering feel. We'll see about that one. Let's also see about the acceleration. Now, 0 to 60 is defo not the M2's forte as well. It's rear wheel drive and the launch control is better at turning power into smoke rather than forward motion. However, once traction is no longer an issue, the M2 competition is not just fast, it is violently quick. Let me show you with the 30 to 70 sprint. There's no beating around the bush, the M2 competition is rapid. We managed a time of 3.38 seconds, only 0.1 off the M3 competition, and neck with the Mercedes C63S. For a car of this size, that is rapid. By the way, don't worry about the slope angle, we run these times on exactly the same bit of road, and I assure you it is dead flat. Anyway, moving on to reason number 2 why you should consider buying the M2 competition over the standard M2. The seats. Yeah, instead of, well, standard BMW seats, you get the proper buckets, similar to what you'd find in an M3. On closer inspection though, you'll notice that there's some cost saving going on still, as the leather quality isn't that of a proper M car. Bit cheeky of BMW, but at least the shape is special. The rest of the interior is mostly just regular 2 Series stuff. However, you do get slightly nicer trim and of course the dual clutch shifter instead of the ZF 8-speed auto. Before we move to the back, I just want to say this interior is pretty much bang on for me. Easy to use, functional, and just about pretty enough that it doesn't feel cheap. Another area where this Generation 2 Series shines is rear passenger space. Yes, it's not massive, but for a small car, this is genuinely still enough room for an adult. I could happily do a 45-minute journey back here. Even the boot is well thought out. You have a 12-volt socket, handles to fold the seats down with, and just a genuinely decent amount of space. With the seats folded down, you can actually fit a surprising amount of gear back here, even a bike at a push. Enough about boots and bikes though, let's get on the road and get on to the third reason why the M2 competition is the M2 for you. Okay, BMW M2 competition then. And the first thing I'm noticing is I'm sitting too high up, and I'm not sure why. I have the seat on its lowest setting, like I've checked at least 5 times, and I'm sitting quite high, which is strange, considering I can get lower in my 140i. I don't really know why that is. I mean, it must be something to do with the fact these are electric seats. But I'm definitely sitting higher up, and a little bit too high, which is very strange for a BMW. Usually they're perfect. So like, if I squat down a bit, it's kind of okay, but yeah, I would like to be a little bit lower. Anyway, driving around town, BMW M2 feels quite subdued really. Quite relaxing, quite nice to drive. Going over bumps like this, we're on passive dampers, so it is stiff-ish, but it's nowhere near being too stiff for UK roads. You know, you just can't go over them as fast as SUVs can. But steering in comfort mode is, it's got so much texture over M-like cars. That's where you're really getting your money's worth, is just every control surface has a nicer weight to it, has more feel, and yeah, the word texture is perfect to describe the steering. You just feel every little undulation in the road. You know exactly what those front tyres are doing. Very nice. The other thing I'm noticing as well is that compared to the M3 competition, this gearbox seems to be a little bit better calibrated for comfort-orientated driving. It definitely has a slightly smoother engagement than the M3 does. Now, to me, this feels like a baby M car rather than like the M3 competition where it's sort of all-out race car for the road. Quite interesting, really. This is definitely a little bit more subdued, a bit more relaxed. It's going to be interesting to see if it's any less fun. I'm hoping it's more fun because it should be, you know, shorter wheelbase, a bit lighter. It should be more fun, really. Then the next advantage about this little sports car is that it's little, so driving it around a town like London is very easy. Right, parking, into reverse. This car's got a reverse camera, lines telling you where you're going to go, parking sensors front and rear. And the reverse camera, do you need it? To be honest, not really. It's a fairly small car, so it's very easy to park. Then, obviously, once you're in your parking space, being a coupe, you do have to be fairly careful, otherwise you can hit people's doors. That's where the 1 Series is a little bit better. In terms of like the wide body though, it's still quite a small car really, so it doesn't really feel that wide. It's only through like 6x6 width restrictors, you have to be a little bit careful. Right then, coming out of junctions, start stop is on. That's the first thing I'm going to turn off after this little test. But half throttle, coming out of a junction, takes about half a second to start the engine. But there's certainly plenty of grip and plenty of low down torque from this S55. But yeah, this is definitely smoother than an M3. Every M3 I've driven has just been a little bit jerky in terms of getting out of junctions and stuff. Quite interesting how they chose the M2, which is like in my mind that's supposed to be the slightly more aggressive car and like more raw, but to me it feels like a really well sorted 2 Series so far. Anyway, will it do the same kind of fuel economy as a proper M car? Currently sitting at 18, so I'm guessing that's going to be a yes. BMW say on the combined cycle this is only going to do 28 miles per gallon, which is no bueno, considering the M3 is supposed to do more than that. Bit weird, again, the car's lighter, why? Yeah, it's just all a bit strange. Anyway, that's reset. So we're going to see what kind of MPG we do on the motorway, and I do get it, you know, it's a sports car, you're not really looking at that MPG figure. It's more about how many miles can you do before you have to fill the car up. And if it's less than 200 on the motorway, that's going to be a bit of a pain in the backside. But yeah, as usual, let's take this thing round a roundabout, get it MDM, and see how this little M2 handles. Okay, we're in full MDM, engine in Sports Plus, gearbox in S3, full attack mode basically. See what this little M2 is like. It's going to be interesting to see how this differs from the M3. By the way, sorry if you hear any rattles, it's just on like camera gear. Surprisingly not the car. Okay, there's the gearbox I remember. Woohoo! Oh yeah, there's a bit of jerkiness from that dual clutch. Okay, yeah, that was about half throttle and it was braking traction. And I didn't feel the stability control coming at all then, which is interesting. Usually it reins you in as soon as the steering gets to sort of there. Maybe they've calibrated it to give you a little bit more slip before it starts catching you. But yeah, typical M car, very easy to get the thing sideways. And yeah, it's aggressive, but it's not quite as aggressive as the M3 is. The way it delivers the power is definitely a bit smoother. Not a lot smoother, it's still got that very snappy rear end that the this powertrain is known for. It's just that mid-range torque is what really does it, because you get no boost and then suddenly it just comes and hits you like a freight train. Yeah, before I get carried away, let's go back into what they call efficiency, ironically, and see what kind of MPG we can get on the motorway. I'm going to see what this thing's like on the motorway as well, actually, what the road noise is like. Alright, get that start-stop off, we don't want that. Okay then, coming onto the motorway, let's test out the throttle response actually. Get past this lorry. So if I can just give it half throttle. Yeah, see, it barely downshifts, but just got so much grunt. It just shoots you up to 70 so quickly. And yeah, okay. Okay, let's get the cruise control on. 70 miles an hour. Sitting at 2,000 revs. This is pretty nice. Seems fairly quiet, fairly relaxed. Tiny bit of wind noise. But interestingly, to me at least, it sounds like there's less road noise than there was at the M3. Now, obviously that can be due to tyres, but we are riding on the Michelin Pilot Supersports, which are fairly noisy. I've certainly got experience with that. But yeah, to me this sounds fairly similar to my M140i on the motorway. Interesting. It must have been tyres on that M3 that were doing it, because I highly doubt the bigger car is actually noisier inside. Yeah, seats are comfortable, plenty of support. They don't hug you too much. Car's fairly smooth. Steering, it does, tramline a little bit. It's trying to find little dips in the road, but you can't have everything. Overall though, fantastic. I genuinely thought this was going to be a bit compromised doing long journeys in, but it really isn't. Yeah, I could happily do like 3-4 hours in this, perfectly fine. I can feel my finger itching to put it back in MDM though. Oh yes, as soon as you turn this thing into a corner, it is wonderful. That front end, that's what you don't get in an M-Lite. The front end just bites. There's just no dead zone in the steering. Like, you give the car an input and it goes there. Like, you just go whoop and the car's turning in. Whoop. Oh, it's wonderful. So sharp. Right, I'm getting too excited. Let's get on the motorway, and hopefully it's fairly clear today so we get a good run and see what the actual MPG is like of this thing. I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so we had a little bit of traffic on that run, but we were consistently moving and it was always above 40 miles an hour, so that might have actually helped our MPG figure. Let's have a look and see what we did. What's it going to be? 35.6. That's not bad, really. Certainly better than what BMW claim. I reckon on a longer journey you might even get like 38 MPG out of this thing, which is actually kind of what I thought it would do, considering it's lighter than an M3. Same engine, lighter, it should do a bit better, shouldn't it, really? And yeah, still going up to 36 MPG. Still not quite as good as the B58 engine, but they're two very different personalities. One's a torque monster, this is much more like racy. But yeah, 36 MPG is very livable, and it means you can do you know, around 300 to 350 miles to a tank of petrol if you're driving it on the motorway. Around town, probably not quite that, and if you drive it properly, which we're about to do now, probably not anywhere near that. So let's find out what happens to that figure once we get on a B road. Okay, back in full attack, let's have some fun. Bit of traffic today, so I'm going to have to be careful. I have to go around a couple of times. It's just the front end though in this thing is insane, and you just tickle the throttle. Just look at the front end grip. It's insane. Everything's just coming at you at like 1,000,000 miles an hour in this thing. Back end's a bit squirrely, and that's all the fun you're legally allowed to have. One thing I will say though is these OPF, PPF, GPF gas particulate filters fitted cars do sound very subdued. Like, this doesn't really sound like a proper M car on the outside. It definitely needs an exhaust. Like, if I just open the windows slightly, hopefully there's not too much wind noise, I'll move my head to one side. Like, it just sounds a little bit muted to me. But it's the grip that just is astonishing. It really is. Around here you'll notice it mainly. Like, it just grips. I haven't felt any stability control yet either. Which, you know what, is just a sign of it being a really well balanced car. And a lot of journalists said this was a bit more, what's the word? Like, easier to get used to than something like an M3, a bit less intimidating basically. And I think they're right, it's definitely a bit less intimidating. Like, you feel like you can have a little bit of fun with it without getting too crazy. It's just a really well balanced car. And it's so predictable. I mean, the sign of a good car is when you get in it and it feels like an extension of yourself. And this really is that. You never start a slide and kind of think, where's it going to go? It feels like walking, basically. Even easier than riding a bike. And this gearbox, when you're on it, there's few that are better. I mean, the only system I can think of off the top of my head is Porsche's PDK. But the downshifts are just like, ooh, ooh. Just like, so rapid. And one characteristic I actually really like is the little thud you get on upshifts. Like, if I put my foot down, you get a nice thud in your back. But you can feel exactly how much grip there is on the back and the front. I'm struggling to think of a car I want more than this. This is pretty much as good as it gets as a driving experience. You know, maybe if it had a really nice manual gearbox. That's not to say this, you know, dual clutch automatic isn't taking away from the experience there. Oh, it's a naughty little thing, this. Just got so much grip though. If I own this, I think I'd go through about a set of tyres a month, if not a week. Oh, this is fantastic. I'm smiling. Woo! Just so much front end grip. You can't even get anywhere near this car's limits on a road. You know, I could go around this corner near 100 miles an hour if I wanted to. The front end has way more grip than the rear, but I love that because it means you can really dance with the car. Ooh, I think I'm in love. Damn. I'm gonna say it. This is better than the BMW M3. I'm sorry, it just is. It's just more usable on a British road. The M3 is so capable that, you know, you're kind of fighting with it on a British road. This is just a bit more lenient, allows you to be a bit more carefree, but weirdly, it doesn't have to catch you. It doesn't bite you as hard as the M3 does. It's a bit silly, basically. This car's just got a silly personality. It doesn't take itself too seriously. Oh, what a fantastic machine. So far in my time reviewing cars, I have driven nothing that makes you feel this connected. From the driver's seat to the steering, the chassis. My brain is connected to the ECU in this car. It's kind of annoying because I really want one now. Because as a daily, it's really not that bad. Down here is where you notice the suspension is a little bit stiffer than an M-Lite. In fact, talking about down here and B roads, let's take it to one now and see how it handles. Okay, still in full attack. So I had a look at the footage and it says the traction's kicking in, but it really doesn't feel like it. Gosh, the amount of torque just means you're up to illegal speeds so quickly in this thing. Yes, the M3 would be a bit quicker around a track, but I am having a little bit more fun in this, I must say. Okay, let's give it a sort of launch, see what happens. Wow. And people map these? Do you really need to? My goodness. You can feel the rear end moving about, but it's so controllable that it really doesn't matter. Suspension does a great job and isn't actually too stiff, I don't think. Wowzers. Still got to have your wits about you. So yeah, a quick summary before the conclusion. This is basically an M3 that's a bit easier to drive and a little bit more forgiving, even though it likes to go sideways a bit more. I think because it breaks traction a bit sooner, you're doing it at lower speeds, and it makes it less intimidating then. You know, you're not going 70 and then the rear's sort of suddenly coming out at you. And I mean, it will, but it's not like unpredictable. Let's try second gear around here. Oh yes. Ooh, strong suspension. I could do this for the rest of my life, happily. It's just so easy to drive on the limit. There are very few cars you can drive on the limit like that and just have the utmost confidence in them. It's so good, I'm going to have to give it one more go. Like potholes, you can just avoid them. Oh, you can trail brake into corners. You can do whatever you want with this thing and it will just take it. Even left foot braking is kind of possible in this. Like, it's not. So if I'm using my left foot now. Yeah, it's still a little bit too far over to the right. You know, obviously it's not a McLaren, so you're not going to get a sort of centered pedal box, but it is doable. If I had some proper shoes on, it would definitely be a fairly alrightish experience. On track, obviously, you're basically giving it full brakes all the time when you're coming into corners. So once you get past that initial bite, it's easy to modulate with your left foot. And it's fairly comfortable as well. Yeah, definitely doable. Overall though, it is unreal, this car. This is so close to perfection. Now, I just really want to drive a BMW M2 CS, if I'm honest. This is wonderful though. Alright, let me digest my thoughts and I'll come back to you guys with a conclusion. So yes, I'd like an M2 CS, but wouldn't we all? Let's be real for a second, shall we? The CS is literally double the money. Heck, even if you bought one, you'd feel bad just for driving it, as every mile you do heavily affects its value. The competition is a fantastic daily driver, yet unlike the original M2, has the proper M engine and just feels a bit more polished in terms of its chassis. It's the realistic choice, yet still one of the best M cars ever made. Yes, I said it. I suppose the real question is, would I take one of these over the M3 competition? And the answer is, actually yes. Surprisingly, it's a bit less aggressive, more approachable, and well, a bit more fun. As always, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, give it a like and why not subscribe? As not only can you see more content like this, you can see everything we have for sale, which includes this stunning BMW M2 competition. My name's Tom, and you're watching Paragon Cars. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.